Visualization is underrated, and what I mean by that is we don't tend to use it as often as we could do. And the thing is, visualization can be applied to a vast amount of different situations. In a moment, I'll show you how to use it to literally lock in, to wire into your brain your best self. In other words, the best version of yourself that you want to bring to lots of different situations in your life in such a way that you just default. Your body literally just defaults, and mind just defaults into that actual state. And there's some really cool science behind it. One of my favourite pieces of research was done by Alvaro Pascual Leone at Harvard. And him and his team got a group of volunteers to play a sequence of notes on a piano for a set period of time over a period of 5 days. So on a Monday, they did it on the Tuesday, the Wednesday, Thursday and the Friday. So they did it for 5 days, and they had their brain scanned every day, focusing in on the region of the brain connected to the finger muscles. And what was amazing is this region of the brain began to grow, like a muscle. It began to enlarge. And it's known now as neuroplasticity, meaning the plasticity of the connections within the brain's neural networks. So neuroplasticity. And what was happening here is the brain is literally enlarging in those, or the parts of the brain governing the finger muscles, the networks there were enlarging. But while these people did that with their fingers, a separate group of people closed their eyes, put their hands flat, and just imagined playing the notes in the piano. So one group physically played the notes for the set period of time over those 5 days. The second group closed their eyes and visualized themselves. They imagined playing the notes for the same period of time on each of the 5 days. And amazingly, their brain in the region connected to the finger muscles also changed into exactly the same extent. And if you compare the brain scans of those who played the notes versus those who imagined playing the notes over the 5 days, you can see for yourself there is no difference between the changes in the brain. In other words, in this case, and under these conditions, and this applies to a large amount of situations in life, is the brain doesn't really distinguish all that much between whether something's really happening or whether you're imagining it happening. And you know, what you do with your mind even physically affects the body. And this is a key to using it to visualize our best self, our ideal selves that we want to bring to all these scenarios in our lives. One of my favorite was done at the Lerner Institute in the US, where they got a group of volunteers to extend and contract their little finger, again for a period of time, every day for 3 months. And before and at the end of the 3 months, they put the finger in a machine that lifted a wee set of weights to see how strong they were. And on average, they'd improved in strength by 53%. Guess what the other group did? Exactly. Yep, you guessed it. They closed their eyes. They didn't actually flex their little finger. They closed their eyes and imagined that they were extending and contracting their little finger for the same duration of time each day for that 3 month period. And they also put the finger in a machine, lifted a wee set of weights, and amazingly, they'd got 35% stronger. Isn't that amazing? And they hadn't even lifted a finger. I know, rubbish joke, apologies for that. But they hadn't even lifted a finger. Now, the group who actually did the extension and contractions, 53% stronger. Those who imagined it, 35% stronger. You might say, well, you know, it wasn't the same, it wasn't 53. But here's the thing, it also wasn't zero. It was a clear gain in strength. And what the researchers here proposed is, as we visualize, it increases it causes changes in the brain, which increases the efficiency and the volume of signals going to the muscles, which helps the muscles to actually physically to adapt, to move better and to become stronger in this case. Now, where that applies to your best self is, let's say, let's use it for confidence, right? Let's suppose, or, you know, it could be confidence in how you interact with people. It could be confidence in, let's say, speaking in front of people, whether it's a public talk or even at a meeting or something. And what happens when we're not feeling confident is we contract our bodies. So our shoulders sort of go in like that, and our facial muscles kind of tense, and our throat constricts. And what's happening is there's a synchronization between how you feel on the inside and how that's expressed on the outside. But it goes both ways. So if you literally take control of what your muscles are doing on the outside, in other words, if you were to practice just holding and moving your body in a confident way, then that would eventually train the brain, especially in these scenarios, but practice outside of these scenarios. That would train the neural networks of the brain enough so that you would literally, when you go into these situations that you may be struggling with confidence, you would actually be more confident. And that's a really good technique. It's literally practicing it. And it's just the same as if you want to run 5K in 45 minutes. You have to train. You have to literally practice. So in this case, what I'm referring to as is the physical practice of holding and moving your body in a way that conveys how you want to feel. But what about using visualization? Well, visualization speeds the process up quite substantially, because the brain isn't distinguishing between real and imaginary, particularly when we're talking about these muscles involved in emotion that are linked with emotional states. So facial muscles, shoulders, your spine, having your back straight, these sorts of things. So the way to do it is you imagine yourself in the situation, in the scenario that you want to be this best self, this better version of yourself, however you're defining in the moment this better version, whether it's this more confident version, this more self-assured version, or whatever version of yourself you want to imagine, and just repetitively run that story in your mind from the moment that you're about to present yourself, whether at the moment you're about to speak or the moment you're about to start interacting with this person or these people, or the moment you're being called to the front to deliver a presentation or whatever. And imagine yourself going through the whole process. In other words, don't jump right to the end and visualize everyone say, oh great, well done, I really love what you said. Visualize yourself as you get there, paying attention to how you're holding and moving your body. So how you're holding and moving your face, what you're saying, but also how you're accentuating the vowels, how you're literally enunciating with confidence as you achieve this best self version of yourself. Visualize how you're holding your shoulders. If you're walking, imagine how you're walking, how you're moving your body as you get there. So you're not just visualizing the end, of course. At the end of the visualization, get to the end, of course. These are called outcome visualizations, where we visualize the outcome, and most people use visualization for that. But here I'm saying use visualization as well as at the outcome, getting to the outcome, so that what you're doing is you're visualizing your body and the muscles in your face and your spine, your shoulders, your spine, all these muscles which carry the state, the emotional state you want to feel. And what you're doing is you're shaping the brain circuits, because the brain isn't distinguishing real from imaginary. So you're shaping these brain circuits. You're literally locking in or wiring in this best self version of yourself. And the key is repetition, repetition, repetition. Let's use the 5K example. Let's say you want to run the 5K in 45 minutes or 40 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever whatever would be your target. Then just simply jogging round the block once probably won't help you get there. Like anything, you train. So you would maybe train 2 or 3 times a week, starting small, getting longer, getting faster, but training it in. Visualization is the same. You don't just do it once and think, oh, and if it doesn't work, a lot of people say, oh, visualization doesn't work, because we only did it once. It's the same, you've got to train it. You've got to train your neural networks, just like you train a muscle to lift a heavier weight, or train your muscles, your cardio, so that you can run longer and faster. So with visualization, you've got to train the neural networks. If you want to lock in this best self, this better idealized version of yourself that you want to bring into a host of different situations, you've got to do the repetition. It's only through repetition, repetition, repetition that you're able to lock in or wire in to the brain this best self. And then when it's wired into the brain, the muscles take care of themselves. When you find yourself in that situation, your body literally just goes into default, and the default is the best self. because that's how you've shaped your brain circuits. So the key is repetition. So if you want to give it a try, think of a situation where you would like to be what you would define in your own way of thinking, a better version, your best self. And just imagine yourself, do it for like 5 minutes a day. I sometimes like to do these things to music, and it's actually quite a cool way to use visualization. Sometimes I don't bother, it depends where I am. But just start by taking a few relaxing breaths and then go into your visualization. If it takes 5 minutes to get from the start to the end, great. If it takes a minute, then do it 5 times. But the key is consistency. So do it every day or every other day for a couple of weeks at least, and see how you get on, and you'll start to notice physical effects. You'll start to notice yourself becoming this best version of yourself in a range of different situations. So give it a go and see how you get on.